Hello, welcome to the CIRS Healing Collective Expert Guest Video Series. I'm Jenny Johnson, the host and facilitator of the CIRS Healing Collective, which has been a resource for aspiring CIRS overcomers to share and connect from around the world since 2020. I'm a shoemaker proficiency partner and CIRS coach, and most importantly, an overcomer myself. What you're about to see is a 10-minute excerpt from a 90-minute group discussion that members of the CIRS Healing Collective got to have live with this expert guest. If you would like to see the full 90-minute replay, come on over to the CIRS Healing Collective. We have a robust video library from the past 5 or 6 years of so many expert guests. Better yet, you'll be able to join our future monthly live discussions with experts to come. We'd love to have you.
I think another great example is the big push to use recycled content in materials.
Yeah.
From an environmental standpoint, let's take the carpet industry. It's a great example. In the carpet industry, there's a big push to use recycled nylon in new carpet. Because you're taking old carpeting that's nylon, you're washing it, you're shredding it, and putting it back together again as new nylon fibers. They're taking nylon fishing nets out of the ocean, which is again fantastic for the environment to take that stuff out of there. But then they're turning it into carpeting. And now let's compare that to natural wool carpet that's not treated with any pesticides, chemical dyes, or flame retardants. Natural wool fibers, hemp, jute, and cotton backing with natural latex. That product, there's a brand out there called Earthweave. That particular brand is completely free of synthetic chemicals. There is no synthetic in it that would cause a reaction whatsoever. So what's more eco-friendly, that or the 100% recycled carpet that still contains 1,200 chemicals?
Yeah, great example. Wow. Thanks for enlightening us on that. Okay.
I mean, and then you take it into even like consumer goods. There's a large company we all know, Patagonia. Patagonia has been, they've been earning environmental awards for the last 30 years because they'll take plastic soda bottles and they will melt it and then spin it into a yarn. And they call it eco fleece. And they sell hats and jackets and gloves and, all this clothing, this apparel. And again, they win environmental award after environmental award for taking stuff out of the landfills and reusing it. Understand that the chemist that invented PET back in the 30s put in his original report that this product should never come in contact with human skin because it can enter the bloodstream, create trihalomethanes, and eat the body from the inside out.
Wow.
So why do we give them awards? Because it feels good to take materials out of the landfill and use them for another purpose.
Yeah.
In reality, we need to just stop making these materials at the start.
Wow. Okay. So this concept has crossed my mind with things like recycled toilet paper that I see in natural grocers. I'm like, why would I want recycled toilet paper? But like, yeah, looking at on a more massive scale of how these things can be healthy for the environment to recycle, but not necessarily meant to be used on our skin or in our homes for the purpose that they're being repurposed for. And that's a good question that we need to ask ourselves when we're buying or, considering environmentally friendly products. Are they also friendly for us? Wow. So, all right. Is that something that you have more content on your website about, or if somebody was like really wanting to drill down on the exact, alternatives?
Yeah.
Do you have information on your website about that, or how can people more?
Honestly, the materials that I have on my website are the ones that I've curated over the years to be kind of like the best of the best.
Okay.
There is no such thing as a perfect product.
Sure.
There are products that are perfect for the individual project or person. But sometimes, or a lot of times, you can look at a product and really I've made my career by doing this. when somebody would come to me with this wonderful eco-friendly or healthy building material, and it's up to me to essentially break it apart and determine what's wrong with it, so that I can tell customers, 99% situations you'll be fine, but in this particular situation, you may not want to use it because of these reasons. I would rather give up the opportunity of selling a product on a project and tell the customer, I do not have anything that works for you, or this will not work, even though you love it. It's not going to work for you.
Okay.
I would rather give up that sale and then ever have that client coming back to me saying, why didn't you tell me this, this, and this?
Right.
Because somewhere down the road, it could come back to haunt them or haunt me. And so, it's like, so what I just talked about, the recycled PET, I actually sell one product that does contain recycled PET. It's a flooring material. However, because of the way it's manufactured, because it's the way it's actually like pushed on or calendared onto the top surface, it's not in that same it doesn't have the same function. It can't actually become absorbed through the skin. And so I have no problem selling it. It's just when you have like this flexible clothing materials, that's when it's bad. So there is no perfect solution for every project. And as much as I'd love to be able to even write a book and say, here's how you build a healthy home, I understand that if 100,000 people bought that book, 999,999 people would say, that's not for me, because my situation is different. So I have to treat every project, every person individually.
Okay. So it would be fair to say that all of the products that you highlight on your page are somewhat vetted. You're familiar with
Yes.
them and you feel that there's a degree of green, but none of them are perfect. And depending on somebody's unique sensitivity level, you can kind of customize some suggestions about what would be the best fits for them if they were doing some remodeling or building. How would somebody know what they're sensitive to? Like if someone's not really sure, maybe they know they don't do great around new building material, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
How would you help them figure out, oh, I bet it's the formaldehyde, or I bet it's the this or the that? How do you distill that down and help somebody pick the right products?
Well, it depends on what stage of the process they're in, and when they get to me,
Okay.
hopefully it's a client that's already talked to you. And so, or talked to some functional practitioner around the country and said, here's what I know.
Uh-huh.
I will say it's getting a little easier. I mean, it's not easy, but it's easier than it was 20 years ago. We didn't know 20 years ago that there is an actual genetic predisposition to have mold sensitivity. Now we know. 20 years ago, we all still thought that chemical sensitivity was a disease. Now we pretty much know that chemical sensitivity is just a symptom of an underlying issue.
Okay.
And so the longer this goes on, the more we learn. But when a customer comes to me and says, I walk into a new build and I get a headache instantly. Well, there's two reasons why that's going to happen. Number one is just because the formaldehyde, yes, is a key trigger, and formaldehyde is in so many building materials still to this day. But the other thing is just the whole dust factor. New homes are extremely dusty because of the drywalling process, just the concrete curing. And that's a huge, lime that comes from those things is a huge airborne irritant. But also keep in mind that the average new home built today has only anywhere between 8,000 to 15,000 individual chemicals just from the building materials.
Yeah.
And so if it's not formaldehyde, if it's not dust, and it's actually something even deeper, then, how do we avoid? It's hard to avoid what we don't know is causing the problem.
Yeah.
All we can do is avoid, generally speaking, avoid as much chemical release as possible.
Yeah.
And then as we go through that process and they're going through that process with their practitioner to maybe figure things out a little bit deeper, maybe we can find that middle ground. I have had customers over the years that have built homes where I had to send them a sample of every material going into that home in a glass mason jar. For them to do their testing, whether it's just a simple sniff test or a muscle test or what have you.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're talking about 1,000 materials that could go into a house.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, 90% of the toxicity issues from the building materials and the chemical off-gassing will come from the things you see and touch on a daily basis after you move in.
Okay.
Flooring materials, painted walls and ceilings, cabinetry and built-ins, and then your own personal furnishings, your furniture, window treatments, area rugs. Those are the 4 biggest items in anybody's home because that's the biggest amount of possible exposure. The last 10% will be things you cannot see or you'll never touch. Insulation, subflooring, sheathing, caulking materials, and all those ancillary things.